Hello everybody, welcome to Tokyo. This is Asakusa, and that building right there with the OK everyday low prices and the marker right here is our focus for today, including this building. This is Ryounkaku. It was the #1 attraction in Tokyo in 1923, built, I believe it was 1890s. It wasn't around for very long because the Great Kanto Earthquake of 1923 burned it. First it kind of toppled it, and then it burned it down, and we have video of that as well from 1923. But we just celebrate is a strong word. We just had the 100-year anniversary of the Great Kanto Earthquake, and at that time Japan, how you doing? Japan practices or spends September 1st every single year to practice or get acquainted with the disaster, in particular earthquakes. And Leo's daycare or preschool, they had on September 1st a special day where all the kids wore these special hats. They turned off all the lights. I had to bring a special card to go pick him up, as though a disaster had happened in Tokyo, and that was really interesting. And it made me realize, wait, September 1st, that's the Great Kanto Earthquake anniversary. Yes, they picked this day following the earthquake, the entire country, to remember it and also use that day as a chance to refresh the skills in case of an earthquake should happen, a disastrous one, which can save lives. This is where I am exactly. This is Asakusa, or Asakusa. And you can see this area is very famous for tourists coming to visit. There's Hanayashiki Park, which has over 100 years of history on the right side there. But at this site was a 12-story building made of brick that looked foreign. It was the tallest tower in Japan, and it was the biggest attraction in Japan and Tokyo at the time, because it had the only electric elevator in Japan, the first one, which is pretty cool. There's a Skytree now, which is the highest freestanding tower in the world, but back then in 1923, it was on this very spot. And unfortunately, hold on a second. Bro has better live stream skills on his phone than most people have on multi-PC. Really? Well, thank you very much. The tower right here burned down, and this is what it looked like. At the time, Tokyo, it wasn't, well, I have the video right here. This is what it looked like when it burned down. Now, the tower itself was very beautiful, don't you think? This is looking at it, I think, from Ueno Park. You could see this tower everywhere in Tokyo because it was so tall at the time. Most buildings back then were only 2 or 3 stories, and the highest ones were 4 or 5, and those were considered really high. In particular, I mean, if an earthquake did happen in Tokyo at the time, a 5-story building had a higher chance of toppling over, so most people would just build 2, if at most 3-story buildings. So this 12-story Ryounkaku Tower was just massive at the time because of the earthquakes in the country. They didn't have the same kind of engineering. But when the 23 earthquake happened, it wasn't the earthquake that toppled it down because they had reinforced it with steel. It was the fires from a typhoon that at the worst possible time, September 1st, hit Tokyo, and it just fanned the flames where the entire city was engulfed in these like tornado-like fires. And you can see that in the old video from back in the day. I've got a video here. For some reason, it's here it is. Let me turn the volume off so I can talk about it. This comes from, it still could not survive the earthquake and the fire together. Like, all right, come on here. See, you compliment me on my skills for live streaming, and then everything kind of falls apart. Now, over there over there where they're playing music is a marker. Do you see that right there in the center of your screen? That is the only thing that's remaining of the Ryounkaku Tower. And you can come and see this in Asakusa. It's not that far from the Don Quixote here. And probably from Sensoji Temple, it's about a 5-minute walk. If you come for the meronpan with whipped cream inside, it's about 2 minutes from here. So it's not too bad. I go over there, but we're gonna lose the signal. All right, let's just try it really. Let's try it quickly. Okay. I don't know why the signal is like a really bad spot here. The marker's pretty interesting. And then it was built on November 27th, 1890, and it was destroyed a couple of months after the fire. They just had to bring it down because, I don't know. By then the engineering was good enough where they could build some taller buildings, but it was pretty impressive for its day. Nowadays, you can see the buildings around it are quite high, including this one I think is for gambling. I'm not sure. But the Hanayashiki amusement park is still around. And if you, I don't know, they always talk about closing it down. But if you ever get a chance, this 100-year amusement park, this is also here during the Great Kanto Earthquake, I believe. And it's not the best amusement park, but it's kind of fun to go in there and ride rides that have been around for so long. I will one day do that, I think. Broadcast Studios here from Oregon. How you doing? This is called Broadway. I'm not sure why. I guess it is because it's quite wide. But it's a pedestrian street that'll take you to a Shotengai. And we're going to go in that direction and take a look at what is around Asakusa at that time. But let's look at some of the old photos. The banners here showing this street have the Ryounkaku Tower on it. I think that's kind of cool. So unless you know the history, this building would be meaningless, right? You just wouldn't know unless you knew that Tokyo's #1 attraction was at this spot. And it's gone now. And you just wouldn't know that unless I'd done a live stream. You know how I know? Because I asked my wife, who's from this area. She was born in this ward. Tokyo has 23 wards. She was born in Taito Ward. And I asked her, do you know Ryounkaku? She goes, Ryon what? And I'm like, it was the #1 attraction in Japan in 1923, burnt down in the Great Kanto Earthquake. Are you kidding me? This is one of the biggest symbols of Asakusa's history, besides Sensoji Temple and Kaminarimon. She had no idea, and she's Japanese and was born here. It's like, what? So history seems to dissipate and then melt away over time, and that's sad. Because Tokyo is a city of history. It's a city where a lot of great things have happened. And I guess they call it Roku, which is 6 wards Broadway. So I guess it goes through 6 wards of old Asakusa, perhaps. But you cannot see, we're here, but you cannot see where the building once was. And, you know, the great thing about this building, here's the view that they had from the tower. There's a top of the tower from a painting. The rain's starting to come down. I was afraid of that. From old postcards. This was such a big attraction back in the day. A lot of the postcards had this in it. In fact, the emperor had paintings of this in the background from the Taisho era and from the Meiji era, because it was such a beautiful sight. It was like the Skytree or Tokyo Tower of its day. So models and a lot of famous people wanted to be where the Ryounkaku's back was. Here's another image of it, before and after, and this is the spot where it used to sit. Just an impressive structure. It's just sad to see that it didn't make it, right? Here's what it looked like back in the day in the postcards that tourists could buy. Yeah, Tokyo had tourists back then too. A lot of visitors. But you could see just how tall it was. And Asakusa was the place back in the day. It still kind of is, but now it's famous for being old. Back in 1920s, back in the 1890s, this area was famous for being new. This was the place where there was new technology and stuff. And it's funny that today, it's a place where time stands still, right? It is a shame. It really is a shame that they couldn't rebuild it. Let's walk this way, and I want to show you this Roku Broadway. Now, they used to call the Ryounkaku just 12 Junikai, because it had 12 stories, and it was the only building in Tokyo that was so darn tall. So they had a lot of nicknames, but it just was so dominant on the horizon of the city of Tokyo. You could see it just about anywhere from Tokyo. Maybe Shinagawa's a little far, but if you're within 5 or 6 kilometers, which is what, 3.5 miles, you could see that building pretty clearly because there's just nothing in its way. Amazing views, and it's still right here, so we could still see it in the background where it would have been. You could see views clearly all the way to Mount Fuji. You could look down into where the Imperial Palace was, which was a pretty impressive thing at the time, because back then you didn't have that. But a lot of guys. I was reading some of the blogosphere in Japanese. A lot of the guys would go there because they could get, with binoculars, looks into the Yoshiwara, and they could peep into there. And the Yoshiwara was where the oiran were, or kind of, they weren't geisha, but they were the pinup girls of the time, meaning like they were like the Playboy bunnies of the 1890s. So when guys would go up there, they're like, whoa, I'm looking into like their area, and they would look to try to get peeks at the oiran or the ladies and the happenings in this area, which is kind of interesting because it is very close to the Yoshiwara. In this direction, of course, they do that, right? It's in Vinny to the K. In this direction, you can see this will take you down where they do have that melon pond. Now I'm torn if I should go in this direction or go towards the Shotengai and take you to Sensoji Temple. It's a hard thing. Does Japan have lady boys? Japan has everything. I mean, they got everything. People are who they are here. But that's a really cool mock-up. Let's see if can we find the Ryounkaku? I don't see it. There's the Hanayashiki Park, but they don't have the Ryounkaku in the background. Yeah, but it burned down. But the thing with Tokyo is that things don't last forever here. They're really starting to tear stuff down, and even in my area, Chuo Ward, I'm seeing a lot of the nagaya, which are the old buildings, being torn down just because they're not up to standard in case an earthquake happens. And if one did, a lot of people would lose their lives, so they're tearing them down. I just wonder what happens to those people as they have to give up their residences. Some of them look like they were rebuilt right after World War II. Chuo Ward really, really destroyed, not just in the earthquake, but again in 1945 at the fire bombings of March 10th. There it is right there, the Ryounkaku. It's just such a significant part of Tokyo. And you see that in the signs, you see that in some of the symbols of the city, and international visitors who come here and young people who are Japanese don't even know about it. That's crazy to me. I first remember hearing about the Ryounkaku, I don't know, about 20 some years ago, when I came to Asakusa, and there was an old timer 20 years ago. There were a lot more people that were alive during the Great Kanto Earthquake. So you could sometimes come here, you'd sit at Hoppy Street, and you'd be able to sip beers, and older people would tell you about the World War II and the earthquake. So that's what I got really interested in a lot of the history of Japan, the modern history, because back then there were so many more people that lived through that, through the occupation, through the the fire bombing, through that, and now there's very few of those people left, and that is quite sad, I think. This is the Don Quixote. So to put it in perspective now, this is the massive Don Quixote, and Ryounkaku, a lot of you probably have been in Tokyo, would have been a towering 12-story building right here. And we could see that very clearly. I'm waving at you who are standing on the Ryounkaku 100 years ago. Again, it's 100 years ago today. It was still standing. The ruins of it was there. because the Great Kanto Earthquake took place about a week ago from today on September 1st, 1923. All right, let's walk down a little bit further. I think I had some more video of the earthquake to pull up here. Let's see if I can find it. So recently there's been a lot of historical videos showing the 1923 earthquake. Here's Ryounkaku right there with the ruins of the city all around it. It being made of brick, it really survived a lot better, but you can see Tokyo was just completely destroyed after the earthquake. And it wasn't the earthquake that did it. Once again, it was the fires afterwards, because it happened right before lunchtime and everybody had those fires lit to cook rice and other things, and the earthquake just kind of, starts fires. And then on top of that, the typhoon came at the worst possible time, blowing those fires around. Tokyo did not stand a chance. It's just the perfect storm and natural disasters all coming together. That's what happens. You just can't prepare for something like that. You can see the background. This is Tokyo, 1923. I think this is September 2nd, the day after. Or maybe a couple days after, because it looks like it's settled down. It's just complete nothingness. It looks very much like 1945. Michael Sasano is here. How you doing? Yeah. I think the lives lost here, if I remember from history, about 140,000 people died from the fires and the earthquake. And then afterwards, there was a lack of food. There was an exodus of people leaving Tokyo because there wasn't anything left. There were no markets. There was no infrastructure, not really much infrastructure to bring things into the city to get people food. So a lot of people left. They went to relatives' houses if they could. Some people starved. There was a really hard time, and it was shared again in 1945. 1944 and 45 during the bombings of Tokyo then. It was just a really hard time to be in the city. Reflected in its history, of course, that's still quite apparent. All right, so this is the end of the street. It would have been a really big tower right there where the sky is blue, and now it's no longer there. So from the Don Quixote, which is right there, it's just about a 2-minute walk to get to the memorial site. And I recommend you guys do that, because when you start to learn about the history of Tokyo, it really brings out walking around. It makes it more special when you are going down these streets, because you can kind of imagine what was once here, and that makes it, I don't know, a more magical place. Because if you look around Tokyo now, it is really a colorful place, but these are not the same streets as 100 years ago. And even the Shoten guy is definitely, 1950s, 60s, 70s. So it's just a lot has changed back then. One street that hasn't is where I think I should probably take you. There's an alley here. The only thing is, I think the signal's not going to be very good, so just let me know. Let me know if the signal dies down. I'll try to get to a better place.
How you doing, man?
Oh, how you doing?
I saw you in the YouTube, man.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah. Where are you guys from? Awesome. All right, we got some viewers from the Philippines came and shook my hand. That's very cool. He says he watched before he came and he saw the show. That was nice. I guess when you walk around with a big gimbal and a tripod and a microphone, you sort of draw attention to your. But I'm gonna just walk down the street a little bit. So apparently this restaurant has Tokyo's famous dishes. Katsudon. I think these are Japan's famous dishes. Tendon. And the very famous adult plate. This is the adult plate. which has omelet, shrimp, steak, pasta, basically all Western food. This is Japanified Western food plate in the image of Western food to Japanese back in the olden days. I'm serious. That's probably why they made this. When they think of Western food, they think of a hamburger, rice, and spaghetti. And you kind of get that from this menu. That's so funny. I want to try that. That's 2,000 yen. That's a lot of volume. Oh, they were visiting, I think, from the Philippines as well. It's funny, they're wearing Japanese yukata. I think that's really great. When tourists are coming here and they dress up in Japanese local goods, just make sure if you're a man and you have an obi, make sure it stays on your hips. Don't try to raise it like a belt. That's what the girls do. His obi's a little bit too high. You want to have your obi down on your hips, like a samurai. You don't want to have your obi on your waist. Just keep that in mind, because then you do look like a little bit kind of like a girl. I've had to help Japanese guys who didn't know how to tie. You got it. Yeah. We love your videos. Oh, thank you. That was nice. They bombed it. Photo bombed us. Yeah, I've had to help Japanese guys tie their obis. So that was kind of interesting to do that, to see a foreigner helping somebody with putting on their yukata. Because the younger generation doesn't know how to tie the obis, because they don't really do that unless there's a festival. I had to learn. I had no choice. When I came to Japan, most of my friends were over the age of 65. I'm serious. That's how I learned Japanese. I learned it from old ladies. They had a lot of free times and they were very friendly. It's really hard. Like, this is Orange Street and this is very close to there's the road over there. And just the signal is not really good. Hello. Just on this road, the signal's never really good, but I guess we could try it out. Oh, he waved to me earlier. Frank the Tank is here. Looks quiet for midday. How's the humidity? You know, once September 1st hits, the humidity starts to die down fast. So it's not too bad. It's still here, but it's getting more comfortable and you can smell it in the air. In the height of summer, you can't even breathe. It's like breathing soup because the humidity is so high. Now you can really start to smell Tokyo again, which isn't always great. Sometimes it doesn't smell pleasant. This is the view you can get in Asakusa. Again, the Ryounkaku, only 12 stories. This building, I would say like 100 and something. I don't know how many stories it would be, but 643 meters high. Sometimes I mistake that. The world's highest freestanding structure. And that's pretty interesting that it happens in Tokyo with earthquake proofing, which is a testament to how much the technology and the engineering has changed and improved over the last 100 years, right? The tallest building that they could make was a 12-story building that was damaged in a 1914 earthquake. So they reinforced it with steel in 1914 after that, but the next earthquake still got it. This used to be an owl cafe up there. And now it's a kimono rental shop. Interesting. It was a sad owl cafe. I took my friends Dan and Lincoln from the YouTube channel What's Inside there when Lincoln was just a kid. Now he's an adult. It's crazy. But we were walking around there, and Dan and I looked at each other like, what the heck is this? They had a capybara just roaming around. It's a big hamster, and the capybara was just roaming around, chewing the wires. We're like, whoa, this can't be legal. But at the same time, it was kind of cool. And yet so bad, because Dan's also born in the same time as me. He's like the same generation. So we like laugh at each other. This old street has not changed that much, and this is kind of a cool. Oh, hello. Where are you visiting from? Oh, hey. Welcome to Japan. Unfortunately, yes. Bye-bye. This road has not changed much over the last 100 years. I mean, in the sense that when the earthquake happened, yeah, there are some old buildings here, but on this side, you see these street stands? This is what it was like after the Great Kanto Earthquake. Just shacks were just built up, and they would sell the things, daily necessities. And then eventually, you know, when supermarkets came back up and the supply chain got better, these turned into shacks where you could eat really cheap food because people didn't have cooking in their houses. Then it turned into clothing and things that people needed for their everyday lives. And today, it's mostly for tourists, things that they need or would be interested in buying. It's nice. I actually don't have any You Found Me cards today. My old streaming bag, the zipper's broke. So I have a very small one, but Brandania is bringing me a new one that I ordered from Hawaii. So I'll be able to carry a lot more stuff again. She's coming to the Only in Japan bus tour that starts on Sunday. Can't believe it's only a couple of days away. It's pretty crazy. All right, so we're getting into a place where I know that the signal is just going to completely drop, but this is an area that's known for its old history, but actually 100 years ago, it was where all of the stuff was high tech, and it was the site to go if you wanted to see the future. And now it's a site you go when you want to see the past. I just think that that's funny. 100 years ago, almost to the day, was the Great Kanto Earthquake, and after that, everything changed in Tokyo. This area became the high-tech center of Japan and turned into the place where you see history today. That's really funny, isn't it? And then you can see on the murals and on this street in particular, I think this is Dempoin Street. Yeah, you can see in particular how they try to preserve and protect that old history. And this is an area where they did the opposite 100 years ago, where they tore down those old wooden buildings to build towers. They just didn't do it fast enough because they would have been in a better spot if with the fires had they built more buildings from brick. It was just really expensive back then. You could see people already lining up for the Asakusa menchikatsu. The menchi, like a donut made of pork meatball. I don't think it's that good where you need to line up, but it's just famous, so people do it because it's famous. All right, it's starting to rain here. Oh, this is the place Eric and I went. We had this spicy something or other. I can't remember. A piece of chicken, I think, that they smashed down. I'm going to show you how crowded it is before I jettison because I got to get back. Yeah, deep fried meatball. That's pretty much it is. A breaded deep fried meatball. So the calories stay on. Nice and heavy. I'm surprised the signal's holding strong here. All right, let's look and see what it's like today in Asakusa. Or Asakusa, if you're a strict pronunciationist. Which you'd probably say Tokyo the wrong way too if you are. I always think that that's funny. It's only 2 syllables. Tokyo is Tokyo, not Tokyo. It's just, you know, anyone who tries to correct my Asakusa pronunciation, I come back with. There's Kaminarimon in the distance. You can see the umbrellas out because it's raining. In the other side, I don't have an umbrella. The other side, you have Sensoji Temple. I got a couple of videos that are coming out. In fact, probably 4 this month. Right, Michael writes in here, Tokyo. Tokyo, 2 syllables. Tio. So, there you go. If you want to do it, if you want to be proper, you have to say it right. Look at the people trying to get out of the rain. And it's funny because there's blue skies here. And if you look in the other direction, there's a storm coming. So, let's walk. I got to get out of here too. All right, I'm going into a crowded spot where the signal is sure to go out. Now this street, Nakamise Dori, has been around for a very long time. The walkway to Sensoji. Back in the day, the temples and shrines that were also quite big attractions to Japanese would also be where they went to the shrines and the temples back in the day, because it was not just a tourist. Yeah, this would be a place where there was a lot of markets, and to this day that tradition is upheld, selling to tourists because most people are tourists here. A lot of stuff and trinkets and things like this that you'd want to take back. How are the prices? Going up. I noticed that you'll find manual corrections. I'm gonna see if I can get to the side here. Get out of there. See if we can get. All right, I think we might be back now. Whenever you go into a really crowded space, it's really hard to get a good signal. And I only need about 5 megabits per second upload speed, but in these crowded areas, everyone is using pocket Wi-Fi off of the same networks now, and it's really hard to get that speed, which is a shame. Check this out. Not that far away, we've got these amazing, they're so nice and new, but this one has like that old traditional style to it. I think I can do a street view walk around Asakusa next time and talk about the architecture here, because it's not old. It's actually all modern stuff, but they found a way to make it modern and nice inside and spacious by also keeping the old Japanese aesthetics, which is so cool. Look at that plushie, the shrimp plushie. We're getting a little bit of Osaka on there. It's funny because the wind is picking up and there's rain hitting me, and at the same time I see blue skies. It's a bizarre time of year. We get a lot of typhoons that roll into Tokyo, and the weather does change unexpectedly. But for the most part, September is maybe from September 10th until November 10th. It's a really nice time of the year. Then after November 10th, you start to see the colors change, and then the weather turns colder. Yeah, the weather will get more chilly. All right, saying bye to the sky tree. Let's walk back to the Broadway there. I think we can go through the Orange Street. Hey, Nitrek is here. Mahalo. Welcome to the channel. Let's walk down some of the older streets. After the Great Kanto Earthquake in 1923, very little remained in Asakusa. Very little. A lot of it was rebuilt and then destroyed again in 45, and then rebuilt, this time with concrete, which is not so pleasant to look at. And we had this concrete boom in the 1950s and 60s, even to the middle of the 70s. Then things got really interesting with the architecture. I think around the end of the 60s, but they just wanted to get the buildings back up as fast as possible, but they learned from the past and said, if there's going to be a fire again, we want concrete. And then with that, it all changed. Okay, we can go down this Shoten guy. Yeah. Back into it. It's funny. Every time I go down this Shoten guy, people come and say hi. I think there's a lot of hotels here as well. And the picture will clear up in a second. Just give it a little bit of time. We were here about 15 minutes ago, walking through. Sean Lee is here. Thanks for everything, John. Sorry I missed some of the streams. Thus, get yourself some metal. Oh, yes. I'll see if I can get some and take it back for Leo and Kanai. I can't get the whipped cream, though, because it gets into a hot mess on the way, but thank you for that. I won't come back empty-handed, thanks to you and Michael and everybody. Yeah, if you ask me, I'm somewhat anti-Kyoto, as you guys know, just because they have too many tourists. And I want you to discover other places. I'm not anti-Kyoto per se. I just want you to, I think you have to be strong with your criticism, perhaps. But I want you all to discover new places that are Kyoto-esque. This is where the Ryounkaku, the theme of this episode, stood right here, 12 stories at the end of this street. There's a marker that memorializes what had happened in 1923 as well, the Great Kanto Earthquake. We're gonna go down the street here. That's what was once here. That's the view of the Ryounkaku. Gosh, I loved learning about the history of Tokyo. I'm surprised I didn't do a live stream on this earlier. But if you were, this would have been the biggest date spot in the 1920s until it was destroyed. Everybody came here because you wanted to get a picture if you had a camera of this in the background. People, I wonder if people were doing the peace sign back then. What kind of poses were they doing in the 1920s? And here's that karage restaurant. Yukari. You can smell it. And this is where the Asakusa metro station is. It's different from the other ones. If you come on the Hibiya line, you're going to be thrown quite a ways from Kaminarimon. You want to take the Asakusa line or the Ginza line, not the Hibiya line, but it doesn't matter. You just have to walk a little bit. And there's the infamous in the center of your screen, and that German-looking house, Japanese pancake place. I'm going to be making a stop there to talk to the manager. I wonder why. There you go. All right. I want to say thank you. If you're interested in history, they're coming tomorrow, but I want you guys to check this out. This is the Postcard Club picture for this month. This episode will be released on September 29th because it's I made it in collaboration with Hiroshima City. And this is the Hibaku Resha. They gave me such wonderful access. This train survived and was put back on the rails 3 days after. Not this train in particular, but this one came back a couple of months after. But this train is what you would see on the rails today. And that's the Genbaku Dome, the atomic bomb dome. And this postcard on the back has a picture of Sasaguchi-san, who's a 92-year-old woman who was 14 years old at the time. She was the first employee back 3 days after the atomic bomb. Can you even believe that? And she was running the train as a conductor, checking tickets. 14-year-old girl, because they didn't have enough men in Hiroshima at the time to do that kind of job. And this is a picture of the train in its original colors running on the tracks just a couple of weeks ago. And that's this month's postcard. And I appreciate the support. It's actually a print up because the postcards are coming tomorrow, and I'll send them out as soon as I can. Maybe even from Hiroshima. I'll take the stack down there and send it from the Hiroshima so you get a Hiroshima postmark. I'll try my best to do cards there and get the postmark from Shinjuku, for example. So when you receive the postcard, it says Shinjuku, from Shinjuku. That's kind of cool. I like to do little things like that with the postcards. Try to find the best stamps that I can as well, because Japan's got some really cool stamps. They had these Pokemon stamps last year, and they had Pokemon card stamps. They had the Zombie Slayer one. So some of the anime stamps, they come in season, and they come and they go, but they're not always around. So you'll find I try to pick the best stamps, and of course, I want to make money for the channel so I can travel and keep the production going and make a living. So that's a fun thing that I can send to you from my hand to your house. It's kind of cool. Yoda Jedi 01. Remember to hydrate. Yeah, that's a good. Let's find a vending machine. Thank you for that. I'm actually gonna go talk to the manager, who I've been just missing. Is there a vending machine down here? Let's try to find a vending machine. I could use a water. Thanks for that. I mean, I sometimes do forget to drink water. I'm feeling a little parched. Let's see how long it takes to find a vending machine. Excuse me. Excuse me. Do you guys live here? Do you know where the vending machines are? Over here. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Sometimes you gotta ask locals for help. All right, what do we got? What do we got? A lot of sugar. What's this? It's kind of a green tea. Why is it so small? Do they have the bigger version? Oh, you can't go wrong with ocha. This is the #1 selling ocha in the world. They like to say that they're a Guinness Book of World Record holder or something. But yeah, I think you can't go wrong with that. This is funny. This particular machine doesn't take Suica or Passimo. Sometimes you have to go with good old coins. Although I do love the Tansan. Yeah, I like the Wilkinsons. All right, I'm going Wilkinsons. Thank you guys, that's really nice. Feel like I'm an American again. Wilkinsons, since 1904. That's before. The Ryounkaku was here in 1904. What's Wanda? Are you kidding me? You don't know Wanda? Wanda Coffee, for the longest time, had Tiger Woods as their spokesman for like a decade. Every single commercial had Wanda, 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 Wanda Coffee. Asahi soft drinks, and you see Tiger Woods trying to, trying to make putts and trying to be cool and stuff. They're really cringy commercials, but you never forget them. Go on to Google and Wanda Coffee Tiger Woods, and you'll find all those commercials from the day. I wanda about Wanda. Oh, stop it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, before he became governor, used to do Suntory beer commercials. Bruce Willis used to do Eneos gas station commercials. A lot of celebrities that would never be caught in a commercial in North America did commercials in Japan. Schwarzenegger was famous. DiCaprio, after Titanic, came here and he did an Orico card commercial for a credit card company. Al Pacino did a scene in bed with a Japanese girl for, I forget what, that could have been a credit card as well. Like, it's crazy what they did back in the days. You don't see foreign celebrities coming here to do that as much, except for good old Tommy Lee Jones, who is still doing the Boss Coffee commercials, coming once a year, and he's getting paid quite a bit to do them, and that's a nice gig. Oh, refreshing. The thing is, if you make friends with people here in Japan and you stay friends, it's a very powerful thing. The thing is, it's really hard to make friends in Japan, because if you make friends, you're friends for life, kind of a thing. It's like I heard on YouTube, I was watching I watch historical stuff. I don't watch other Japan YouTubers, by the way. So if you ask me about such and such, I don't, like, why would I watch about Japan? I live here. So was watching a historical interview with Doc Holliday from, you remember the OK Corral with Wyatt Earp? And a journalist came up to him, found him in Colorado, and asked him for an interview, and eventually he got it. And he said in these parts, a friend is a friend forever, and an enemy is an enemy forever. And he looked with his blaring blue eyes at the journalist. That would scare the crap out of me. Doc Holliday said that to me. I'd want to be a friend for sure. Same in Japan. You don't want to be enemies, and in particular in business. It doesn't make a lot of sense because business is war. In Japan, it's way harsher than in the US, if you can even believe it. You think people are honest until you go into business with them. Then you better watch your back. Honesty and money do not, it's a hard thing. Now, if you're a customer, that's different, but if you are in business, oh my gosh. It is very true. Well, thank you for the drink. I'll be doing another live stream tomorrow with Kevin Riley. And we're going to be talking about Kyoto. He lives down in Kansai. He does tours there. So he's going to give us so this is the pancake place. You have to make a reservation at 8 a.m. and it's usually sold out. So they still have some reservations open for pancakes. But you cannot go in and just eat it unless you get super lucky. You have to make a reservation starting at 8 for 10 a.m. And at 10 a.m. you make reservations for 2 p.m. And then they close at like 3. And the pancakes, you eat them in like 5 bites and they cost 2,000 yen. It's an amazing business. But they look good. You get an Instagram photo. And yeah, it's a nice snack, but it's not a meal. It's not a meal. They got one with eggs, with Benedict eggs or something, with bacon in the inside of them. And you drench them in sugar or something, and it's quite nice. But it's popular with tourists. You rarely see locals in there, though. Why would we go in there? You look at the price. It's like the Menbakudai fire ramen in Kyoto. It's like everybody who goes in there is not Japanese, unless you just want a touristy thing. You go in there for the experience. So there you go, everybody. I hope that was an interesting live stream. Ryounkaku is a big attraction of Asakusa back in the day. You can see on the left side how beautiful it was. This 12-story tower burned down in 1923. Now, just a remembrance on an Only in Japan Go episode. Torn down a couple of months after the fire. That's what it looked like afterwards. It's a very sad thing when you lose something to natural disaster. But in its place, there's a cheap department store type of place. So you can go over there and check it out. Check out the marker. But you've learned some history today. Learn something new every day. That's why you should subscribe to Only in Japan. I'm going to Niigata on Sunday and Monday. I'm taking 17 viewers that signed up for it with me. So get ready for some live streams on Sunday night. We're going to be trying to live stream the Katakai Fireworks Festival. So you get a chance to see that with all of us if you couldn't make it to this trip. So I highly appreciate any subscriptions and memberships. Until then, see you tomorrow. Are you still there? What? All right. I don't know what happened. It's burned down already. But I'm walking home and I cannot actually edit the video because it hasn't ended yet. I apologize. And I cannot believe 66 people are still here. What are you waiting for? This is like the end of Ferris Bueller. You're still here? Arturo, yeah, you missed the chat. I'm sorry. It was such an interesting topic. But I'm going to try to find some more historical places that might not have survived the 1923 earthquake, because there's some places that it changed the identity of Tokyo back then. All right, everybody. What are you doing here? All right, see you next time. Tomorrow. End the live stream.